Welcome to the Mountain Bike Podcast. We're in Fort William for the second round of the World Cup Downhill Series. Me and Neil Donoghue here are going to talk about it. Of course, it's brought to you by GMBN because that's who we are. And yeah, we're going to talk about the race, the results, where the series is, and generally luxuriate in the great days racing that we've seen.
True. It feels like it's been a long week here in Fort William, Martyn. It's been some terrible weather. It's been some good weather, actually. There's been a lot of mid-Gs.
Yeah.
Been a lot of action from us. We've done a lot of cool things this week. And then obviously it's climaxed with the race that went on today.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting race, as always is at Fort William.
Yeah, it was a really good race.
Should we own up to the fact that we actually watched the race in our flat here in the middle of Fort William, not at the race site?
Well, yeah, I mean, we were up at the race site this morning. We've been there all week. It was raining, and we thought, you know what, best way to cover this is to really know what's going on. So we sat in our little apartment in Fort William High Street and watched Rob Warner tell us all about it. He does a good job, doesn't he?
Well, I mean,
great.
It's
great.
Obviously the atmosphere at the race is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to really watch the race because there's so many things going on.
Yeah.
You need a view of the big screen and be able to do it. So we thought, I'll get back in.
Especially when the hill's in the state it was today. Because, I mean, obviously, you guys would probably have walked down the hill today if it wasn't pouring with rain. But it was a mess. Yeah. It was a mess. It was super muddy.
I mean, was it Thursday? There was sideways rain for the first day of practice all day long. And then was it Friday? I think it was nice, but it's been pretty bad weather all weekend. Lots of rain. The track stands up to it. It is mostly hard pack on top of it. It's all peat bog. They basically built the old track in 2002. We first raced here with a helicopter. They literally dropped stone in on top of the peat bog. That was the only way you could do it. And there's been more stone added for quite a long time. But I remember racing the first World Cup and the first Nationals here where there wasn't enough stone and you would hit peat bogs and it was like a whooped out motocross track and sometimes you'd hit them and just get spat over the bars because the bike would stop.
Wow.
But the track has sort of been the same now for, well, most of it for, I would say probably 10 years. Well, at least 10 years actually, because last time I raced here was 2009 and lots of it now is exactly as I raced it. Woods changes every year. But it is one of
It's the only section that really changes.
Yeah, pretty much. And they changed the one bit a couple of years ago underneath the lift. There's a couple of big jumps. I actually saw one of the Ben Cathro videos explained it really well, where people were going, there's a line in the trench or there's a line to double up, a big old gap onto like a rock landing. That wasn't there a couple of years ago, so that's fairly new. Yeah. But it's a brutal track. It's super physical. It's really unforgiving. I've got scars on me. I've said this a few times before, but like scars on me that will last a lifetime from this track, from racing nationals, dislocate fingers here. If you fall off here, you've got to be very lucky to hit a soft patch, which we did see in the final.
Yeah, and we have seen some unbelievable crashes this week. I mean, so harsh. I mean, go on, if you go on Instagram and search Fort William World Cup this week, I mean, you will see some frightening photos.
The first one was Tarney Seagrave, I think. Injured first run, I think, actually. Separated shoulder, sounds like some ligament damage in there, so obviously she didn't race.
I heard one of her physios talking about the MRI they've done on her shoulder, looking a little bit like a gunshot wound to the bone, where there's been such a sharp hit point and then it kind of splintering out from that point. So she took a really hard knock. And what's pretty good idea right now is to kind of like just talk about how the shape of the World Cup was coming into this round. So Tarney Seagrave has won the first round.
First round, yeah.
Loic Bruni has won the men's.
Yep.
Rachel Atherton in second in the women's. And then, interestingly, in the men's, we've got Danny Hart in second and Matt Walker third. No.
I don't know if that's right, Martyn.
Actually, I'm not sure. I may have exposed myself. But moving on, importantly, Loic Bruni first, Tarney Seagrave second. So those are the guys in the leader's jersey. Coming into this round, both of those had quite hard weekends. Obviously, Tarney out, but Loic also had a horrendous crash.
Yeah, well, that was crazy where we saw it happen, like a weird one actually. It was on Warner's Instagram. He sort of, his outside foot unclipped on the face of that berm jump on the motorway section and got bucked, obviously, it's like a seat bounce, but turned sideways, big, fast jump.
Yeah.
He came into the race. It looked like he must have faceplanted really badly, and goggles had sort of smashed him in because he had 2 black eyes, bit of a cut on his nose.
No,
must have been feeling that. Like I was saying, there are very few places for William where you fall off and you won't really hurt yourself.
Yeah, I mean, he really flew out. And we were actually on the track at that point just the other day looking at those jumps.
You were riding in tandem and I was saying, Martyn, stop.
Yeah.
At this point, you have to stop because otherwise you're in trouble.
Now I know what you were talking about, because if I'd gone in there that hot, I'd be dead meat.
Well, like I say, who did I talk to the other day? I did a video and talked about riding this track. It's not much fun to ride, but to actually race. I was with Brendan, wasn't it, the podcast?
Yeah.
So another podcast come from here in a few weeks' time with Brendan Fairclough talking about the race.
Which was very interesting.
It was.
Very.
555 metre drop to this. It's been here since 2002. Other big crashes in practice. We saw Giath and his hand slipped off the bar.
At the similar section to where he done himself last year, where he done his shoulder.
Got away with it, I think.
Yeah,
it turned out he sort of slowed down quite a lot. I think he hurt his wrist though. So any shoulders, wrist injuries at Fort William, you're going to really struggle to ride. Finn Isles had a massive crash. Face planted into the rocks, and as he said on the Red Bull coverage, that he didn't think he was going to ride, or thought he would ride but be just getting down the hill today. Yeah.
Actually, I did say quite reservedly, don't expect any better than top 20 from me today.
Yeah, that was it.
And I thought the rest of the world would like to say that.
I was like, top 20 is my best to probably volume. That's good to get.
Wow.
Aaron Gwynn has not had a good week. He got his bike stolen in Edinburgh.
Yes.
I wonder how that works. He must have obviously had a second bike.
Yeah.
We know the first round he had a large and an XL and he swapped them between two. I wonder.
He got one off Intense UK.
So he got one off Intense UK. I wonder if it was probably XL, I would have thought, for this
Jack's
place.
the cameraman there, knowledgeable.
All the damage.
Very knowledgeable.
He re-damaged his ankle, so this is controversial. The word on the street is he snapped another crank.
Well, he did snap.
Well,
it's not word on the street. We know he did.
So, we've heard that from reliable sources. We didn't see it ourselves, which is pretty crazy because there was a lot of kerfuffle. I thought it was a storm in a teacup, actually. The previous kerfuffle on social media, on Pink Bike, about him snapping a crank. Turns out he may have snapped another.
Explain to me, right? Why can't we say he snapped a crank? I've snapped maybe 100 pairs of cranks in my life. It's Aaron Gwynn. That's his job.
I think it's the way it was dealt with from Aaron's team.
Okay.
And then it turns out he snapped another. Maybe that original story was not quite as honest as people were led to believe.
You know what? It's okay to snap a set of cranks.
It is. So they raced and practiced on alloy cranks now. Yeah. Carbon cranks were gone.
Which is the choice you'd made. You'd make after if you'd snapped a set of cranks.
True.
That's what I'd do. But anyway, I'm sure it's a very difficult situation for Aaron Gwynn because obviously he doesn't want to be being sponsored heavily by a brand and then somehow bringing sort of a detrimental view to that brand. But you know what? You don't put cranks on a guy's bike like Aaron Gwynn and not expect some damage.
Days. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, me and Blake went up Ben Nevis yesterday and I scratched the hell out of my cranks and looking at my carbon cranks thinking, oh dear.
Yeah, I like how you compared you and Blake to Aaron Gwynn just then. Well done.
Word on the street as well is Rachel Atherton tried a new bike or half a bike, didn't like it, didn't qualify well.
Went back down to the pits, pressed print and got a new one.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently there's new rear ends on the common side as well, because I was talking to Mike Rose, I don't know if he'll like me name dropping him, who knows, the old editor of Dirt. Yes. And we were talking about how I said in one of our previous podcasts that it sounded to me like people were coming into the year unprepared, like Gwynn, 2 bikes, didn't know what he was going to ride. And Rachel as well. And they've Commensala come here with new rear ends, didn't bring the old ones, like, wow, we hope it works. Yeah. It seems crazy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that seems like my old days of racing where you did that all the time. But now it feels like it's more professional. And actually, maybe it's not.
But I mean, we've got to develop the bikes through the year. They've got to change.
Yeah, but if it might be worse, and you're showing up and going, oh, this might be worse, and now we've got to race it because we didn't bring the old ones with us.
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe it's the acceptance that downhill is the Formula One of mountain biking and they're using it for
but then you get the
testing,
egg on your face when it doesn't work.
Well, I mean, I know it's me, and I shouldn't bring it up, but look at Cannondale. They are back in the sport, and they are using an entire season as a development program.
True.
And that is really, maybe there's some freedom in the Formula One kind of viewpoint that's what they should be using downhill for. Else, what is it for? Because it isn't for selling bikes.
We compare ourselves, or downhill compares itself a lot to Formula One. It's really not, though, is it? It's a million miles away from Formula One.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying it is Formula One. It isn't Formula One.
I don't see any pussycat dolls walking around the pits. That's a bit of an old reference there.
No, there are no pussycat dolls, but Blake's a similar kind of thing. I just think that it is, the development side of it is really interesting.
Who's the most glamorous person at a mountain bike race? Greg Minnaar, probably.
Probably Greg Minnaar. Or, that's one.
Who's the Bernie Eccleston? Martyn Whiteley, I suppose.
Should we keep talking about the race results now? So that's an open discussion there for the comments. Is downhill Formula One and mountain biking?
Don't think so.
Get into that.
Qualifying is always interesting. Time training means nothing. I never look at time training. It just means it's nothing. Tracy Hannah qualified fastest. It sounded like Rachel wasn't, well, she's 10 seconds back. Apparently she wasn't very happy with that. Well, she's not very happy with that. Marine Cabarrou in
Sandbagging.
Second place was 4 seconds back. So big old jumps. Nina Hoffman just behind Rach. Kate Weatherly in 5th place. Now, should we get into that? Kate Weatherly. It's been going off on all sorts of forums.
Yes.
It's a difficult one to talk about, I think.
I don't think it is.
Okay, go on then, Martyn.
Well, I mean, I think there's rules, to do with testosterone levels.
Right.
That the UCI go by. If someone's above a certain testosterone level, then it would be unfair for them to race in the female category of downhill.
Yep.
Kate clearly is, if she's going by those rules, fair play. If someone's got some evidence that she's not going by those rules, then where's that? And if you haven't got that, then be quiet, let her get on with racing. She's doing a really good job. Whatever.
Okay.
It's just rules. There's rules there, and you just work within them. It's the same as doping or anything like that. There's probably racers in cross country or maybe downhill, maybe enduro that are doping, but we don't know who they are. But if they get caught, then we act. Like, Kate is racing, let her race. She's in the category that fits for her, and fair play.
Good on you.
And all the people who are giving it have suddenly found they've got a keyboard and they're trying to use it.
We see that a lot. We do see it appear, as we saw Emily Siegenthaler actually getting involved in the comments on the pink bike, chat about it, completely defending Kate. So I mean, if your peers say it's cool, then that's probably
I mean,
as much,
you can't. I don't think you can get better confirmation that the situation is not for anyone else to comment on it if her fellow competitors are saying, leave her alone.
Tracy Hannah qualified fastest. Obviously, there's points as well for qualifying. So people are wanting to qualify fastest. So Rach sitting down in 3rd wouldn't have gone down well, definitely.
No.
Over to men's, Greg Minnaar qualified.
Just before we move off the women's...
Go on.
Rachel, I think, would have really benefited from not having to go down as the final rider. Is there any chance that she would be thinking, just back off in quality? I know she's given away points, but it's a smart move.
I don't know. Different people deal with it differently.
Yeah.
I think she's experienced enough to go down last and not stress her out, but you never know. Who knows?
She loves winning at home, though, and she would potentially, if one race in the season thought... Well, yeah, I mean... if one race was worth giving away some points to get this pressure situation in the right place. And
obviously Tani's not racing, so the points game is literally between her and Tracy now, it seems. Yeah. So, maybe she thinks... Anyway, sorry, carry on. On to the men. So Minnaar did not qualify at the first round, had a little crash, didn't qualify. Obviously not protected, so Greg has won here 7 times, so he must obviously still... He's not the sort of rider, I think, who struggles with the mental side of things. However, if you're not protected, anything can happen at Fort William. You can easily puncture. you can easily crash in qualifying. We saw a lot of that. We saw Laurie. There was the 3 big riders in Charlie Harrison who needed their protection just to get through. So anything can happen. But he qualified 9th. So you've got to think maybe 9th is good. It might have been Minar's like, I'm just going to get through this. 9th is pretty good for that. Gwyn was outside the top 20 qualifying.
Unbelievable.
Bad ankle, so he did re-aggravate the ankle apparently. So this is not the place to be riding with bad ankles.
It's. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Like the qualification seems to be incredibly important this year.
Yeah,
and it seems to be important, obviously because of points, but also important because there seems to be that pressure there. So I don't know if it's that Greg suddenly missed the finals because he wasn't protected, and suddenly everyone realised, this can happen to anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like, oh my God, no one's... Like, the protection suddenly seems like critical.
See, we could be talking about, at the end of the year, we could be saying, well, Minar had one throwaway race. That happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It turns out it was the first one, which put him in a pretty sticky situation for round 2.
Yeah.
Loris Vergier qualified fastest. Pirion was right there, 0.6 behind. And then there's a bit of a jump. Troy Brosnan, Reece Wilson, Scottish rider. Yeah. But Brosnan was 4.5 back, Reece Wilson 5.3, then Danny Hart 5.6. So they all started getting close, but definitely those 2 guys were a pretty decent jump ahead.
Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah. Right, on to race day. The women's race especially, the weather was terrible. The vision must have been really difficult for them. There was a lot of water. Yeah. Mist, cloud, heavy rain, and then it would stop and then be drizzle and heavy rain again.
Yeah, it was at the extreme point of the weather. And can I fess up to what I wanted to happen before we go into the actual results?
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge Rachel Atherton fan. She's very cool, an incredible rider. Tani's out, and I'm thinking, how's this season going to be interesting? So, I'm sorry, Rachel. I wanted Tracy to win for my season of racing.
Right.
I was like, I want Rachel to win at home, but I also want a really exciting year. And I wanted Tracy to nail it. So her coming down last meant, wow, this is on. It looked like after Rachel had done her run, there was no one going to get close to her because she was, I think she was 8 seconds ahead of the person.
Yeah, Nina Hoffman.
Nina Hoffman, who was on the hot seat at the time. Yeah. She beat her by 8 seconds. I thought, this is over. And potentially the season.
It's a difficult one. Tani has separated her shoulder. I've done both of mine. It depends how bad you do them. But I remember it feeling terrible at the time, like you've broken collarbone, you've broken something. And actually just a couple of weeks later, if you physio it can feel all right. Yeah.
But with Lenza Hyde coming down the road next week.
Leo Gang next weekend.
Leo Gang coming down the road next week.
I presume
Fort Williams, it's done.
It's got to be a did not start next week, I think, for Tane, which then does.
Which sucks hard.
Yeah.
Sucks hard.
Who knows? Yeah. I know she works with some pretty incredible physios that I've worked with before, so. Yeah. I mean, I really, really doubt it's possible, but
Red Bull will be throwing their weight at this now because that's one place where the energy drink sponsor really is a powerful thing. Yeah. A lot of the time, those energy drinks will come to a rider with a bit of money, not as much as maybe people would think sometimes. Yeah. But what they can offer is a support structure that at times like this for someone like Tani is literally career saving.
I've seen it, from friends of mine who've been down that route, and it really does make a difference. And especially how quick you can get back racing if you've got the right people telling you what you can do, but what you can't do, and sometimes that's enough to get you through. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen how they look after someone like outside downhill, but looking at how Red Bull look after someone like Danny McCaskill. It's amazing.
He had a rough time.
He's had a hard time with his back. His back, Danny. He's had problems with his knees, but Red Bull really pull him through in such a positive way. They've got such good support there, and such the qualifications of the people are just undeniable. So it really is useful. So. Hey, heal up, Tani, quick. We want to see you back racing.
So Rachel Atherton took the win, 5 minutes 15. Tracy Hannah 1.6 back. Then back to Nina Hoffman, 8.8. Marianne Cabaru, Veronica Widman. I tell you what was interesting, again, we saw Tracy and Rach go red, green on the splits, as we saw at round one at Maribor with Tracy, with Tani and Rach, literally making time, losing time all over the place.
Well, not. I mean, we saw Tracy a bit of red and green, then green. 2
seconds down and then one up.
She had that race nailed, and then she threw it away at the end. It's so frustrating because Rachel's experience, you saw her absolutely tuck on that motorway section. She was pulling every bit of speed she could out of that straight. Take a screenshot of how tucked Rachel is on that.
Yeah.
You can't be more tucked than that.
Yeah.
The peak of her helmet was below the bars. She was absolutely flying down there. She won the race in the last, the last part of the track.
Which gets talked about all the time. But it's crazy, as an old racer, it's frustrating that you've diced with death and you've done the hardest, gnarliest, windiest, most horrible, death-defying 3 minutes of your life, 4 minutes of your life, and then on the last BMX track, the race is actually won or lost.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and I think Rachel won it there, but also, I hate to say it because I think she's the coolest. I mean, she's my favourite racer. Tracy Hannah lost it there.
Yeah.
She just did not do what needs to be done at the end of the race. Finish it off.
It's easier said than done, mine.
Oh, it's so frustrating. But it means that Rachel has got is in an incredible position because her confidence levels over someone like Tracy Hannah will be higher than they are over someone like Tani Seagrave, and she has now got to be looking at that season of like, this is mine to lose. It is pressure, but it is hers now to lose.
The first World Cup win on Atherton bikes.
Yeah, well, congratulations for that. That's incredible. I mean, 2 races in and they've won a World Cup. If there was ever a really great selling point for a bike, it doesn't get much better than that.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, about how many privateers are riding around on common style bikes after seeing what happened last year.
Yeah, well, I hope that works for Atherton bikes. That'd be awesome.
Yep.
If suddenly everyone's... it is frightening. We'll come to the greatness of common style bikes in a little while.
All right, on to the men's race.
Yes.
You said about... You don't reckon Rachel would have won if Tani was there?
Would Rachel have won if Tani was there?
No.
I don't think so.
No, I think Tani was
controversial though.
Tani's in great form. Rachel is developing a bike.
It's going off outside.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely in Fort William Town Centre and things are going to get loose. Everyone from Wild Camp is on their way down.
Well, it could be the Frenchies, could be Amiri Perrin. Well, going to that.
We're going to get to that. But how did they get cool? It's annoying. Anyway, we're going to come to that.
Men's race?
Yes, no. But you don't think you think Tani would have won?
Probably. I mean, we can't say that because she wasn't there racing.
Yeah, I mean, end of the day, she's got to come down the hill like everyone else and win it. So we can't give her the win without doing it. But it certainly would have been very exciting to see her do it. Anyway, we're covering old ground. Let's get on to the men's race.
Well, it's weird. It's sort of cleared up. The sort of rain clouds just disappear. They get just blown off.
Yeah.
Did you see the Red Bull aeroplanes bombing around?
Through some clouds. It was just as I left to come and watch the race live, on TV. So yeah, I saw a little bit of it, but
it looked probably because you could see the track a bit clearer, but it looked super windy. The tape was going berserk at the top of the track, which is difficult.
And what does that feel like? That top section when it's really windy?
Well, it feels mental. I think it's always like that, pretty much. Yeah. You drop out. It's weird being start hard, no wind. All of a sudden you're like, and you really notice it. You'll see a lot of the riders tuck in at the top. I raced World Champs here in 2007, and you wore skin suits, and I had the world's biggest crash on my first run. Because in skin suit, you were just going like 2% faster everywhere, and just literally overshot a corner a little bit. So. Yeah, you really, really notice the wind at the top 2/3 of this track. And if you get a bad, literally, if it blows a bit harder when you're going out to start, then it will change the results. Yeah,
and just to check, you're wearing that skin suit tonight, yeah?
I've still got it. Got the arse ripped out of it. back in the GB teams.
And that was on a night out too.
Yeah. They supplied us with 2 rubber suits because they were really expensive, apparently.
Yeah.
And I ripped the ass out of both of them.
Yeah.
2 runs.
Yeah.
Falling off.
You've just led me into a world of jokes. But we're going to stay on the race. Okay, so...
Big G Willie, Greg Williamson, I'll start with him. He looked super fast on the bottom, on the motorway. His Uno ever. Stealthy, best looking bike. We shot some with him today, actually. I asked him what it's like to race in conditions like today when it is horrible and you've got to deal with it. And he gave some good answers, actually. Obviously, I think he's from Inverness, which is just up the road, Scottish rider.
Yeah.
And he was super fast at the bottom. He made loads of time on that bottom third of the track.
Yeah. And in the end, he came off the hot seat because of Bruni.
Was that right?
I think it was Bruni who took him off the hot seat.
He was on the... Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My notes say, after Greg, Tyrion was loose, which is part of the course. Greenland was fastest, but lost time on the motorway.
Yeah.
And then, Greg was fast. And then, Greg Williamson was fast. And then Bruni came down. It was 1.7 up.
Yeah. Now, Bruni, a little bit like Tracy Hanna, somehow discovered some sluggish speed in that final part of the track, because after he'd come down, your first words were, he's not going to win. You can't win losing time at the bottom of that track.
So he's 1.7 up, then 3.1, so he made a bucket load of time. Then it came down to 2.3, then 1.8. It's like, that's it. You can't lose 1.3 on the bottom and win.
And why is it that Tracy Hanna and Loic, that's what they both did, and you're right, it rang true. They ended up not winning the race. Why couldn't, Bruni's not, he is super fit.
He is, he's
Bruni.
massive. He looks bigger than ever.
How did he not have the speed at the bottom? What are they doing that means they're losing speed there?
Well, actually, Warner might have said it quite well on the live when Finn did the same thing. Finn came on to do the same thing. Maybe he went too hard at the top.
Right.
Concentrated really hard on going super hard at the top, and then the detriment of that at the bottom was struggling. Who knows?
Yeah.
Bruni will probably be able to tell you. Maybe he'd say. Yeah. But I doubt it. He's so strong. I think probably bike setup. Maybe the tyres.
He did say that he'd set his bike up super soft so that they could, because he was injured.
That was the thing. Both Bruni and Finn had big crashes yesterday and today, so they said they even went softer on their suspension to make it a bit easier on themselves.
Slowed them down a little bit.
Maybe. Yeah. Oh, actually, he said he lost pressure on the rear tyre. Half bar. That would have slowed him down.
Right.
If I'd have read my notes, I would have been able to tell you that straight away.
a few
half a bar is
few reasons.
A lot of pressure. So.
Yeah. Not long after Bruni had been down, he's taken the hot seat. We've got Gwyn coming out the start gate, and we're thinking, right, he needs to start his season right now. He's had not a terrible result, but on Gwyn's standards, a 6th in the first round. It's not where he wants to be on a brand new bike. And then he's got Crankgate, and it's not been an enjoyable time for him. Slightly ridiculous, I think. Crank's breaking, whatever. But it obviously is something he wasn't very happy about because it was covered by some journalists.
Then
boom.
10 seconds in, maybe less.
Biggest crash I've seen in a downhill finals race run I think I can remember.
I think you're right. I think that's going to go viral on Instagram with people stealing it and putting up. It was massive.
Thank God he's okay. It was every reason to not be at the end of that.
It looked like it was hard because it was hidden behind the berm. It almost looked like he washed and the front wheel then went in a hole. And
and the back went.
And the biggest bench press you've ever seen. And it looked like both tyres, you saw sort of sealant as they went. And he flipped, ragdolled, and he was really fortunate that Fort William, that corner, he landed in the peat bog because there's boulders everywhere, and that could have been really, really bad news.
Yeah. I mean, he just stood up, straight up, like a total boss.
He looked like he went over to check out someone's photo. There was somebody on the inside, and he was looking at like a screen or something.
I mean, how does someone like Gwyn now approach the rest of the season where it's not going the way? Usually he starts gaining momentum quickly.
So he's not won a World Cup in a year now.
I mean, it's not going well.
His ankle's already twice injured.
Yeah.
You never know, a crash like that. It's what?
Is him again.
Blake said it again. Yeah. Blake says it again. Ankles, I've broken ankles, not much fun. It's never the same again. So
I always find it strange when I can say I've broke 6 of them.
Yeah.
It's like, which 4 did you borrow?
Well, I can't imagine that because 1 has been enough. And now he walked. Obviously, he crashed so early.
Yeah.
It's quicker just to get back on the lift and come back down. But that's not the way to end a World Cup race.
It really isn't. It really isn't. I mean, he's done some incredible things in the past, but this year is going to be, if he was to turn this around, it really will be something special. I hope he does, because it'll be something to watch, and you can never write someone like him off. But,
no, definitely not. But I can't believe that fact that Warner said that it's been a year since he won a World Cup. I mean, my memory's not good, but that seems crazy, Aaron Gwynn. And I take the mickey a little bit out of Steve Jones being a massive Aaron Gwynn fanboy. But I am a big fan of Aaron Gwynn, but now to say that he's not won it for a year, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of champions who can come back after, someone who can really fight back after the former's gone or luck has gone, and they somehow find it back. That's what a true champion's all about. I think Aaron Gwynn's got that, and I wouldn't write him off.
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
Someone else, Matt Simmons. So he's from my part of the world, from Shropshire.
What's he riding?
Well, he's riding a Cannondale. And he's not been around the World Cup scene for a little while. He qualified fastest at, what was the one, Val d'Isère back in the day, and Samuel beat him. But a really great rider. He's a nice guy, sort of one of the more subdued riders on the circuit, but brilliant, big, strong dude.
Very strong, big guy.
So riding the prototype Cannondale, only 1 shock on it at this race. Was there 2 at Maribor? Or you can run the bike with 1 or 2 shocks, basically. It's a crazy looking thing.
It's cool. It's very cool. It's great to see them back at the races, and it's great to see that what they're doing. They are using this as a bit of a test season. They've obviously got big plans going forward for reinventing the brand a little bit, getting back to their roots, which is great.
Wearing that full white top to race in the most horrible forwarding ever.
Yeah, so this was test number 2.
Yeah.
Maribor being the first.
Qualified 16th.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Which is great. The bike's obviously not terrible. He came down, he was in 10th. Obviously, it's lower than that in the final results, but it was 10th at the time. But definitely not looking bad.
Absolutely.
And it's great to see him coming down the hill. Person I thought was really interesting because of how Gwynn's gone is Dakota Norton. He come really down and he really proved that Bruni's time is vulnerable.
Yeah,
because he really made up a lot of time in that sort of zone 8 onwards.
Yeah,
he really pulled back time, and Bruni did definitely start to ring true what you'd said was he's not going to win this race.
Who else? Actually, Luca came down. Luca Shaw missed round 1, broke a collarbone. He qualified fastest last year at Fort William, then punctured. So
he's having a tough time.
Didn't do that great. G had a sketchy moment at virtually the very same spot. He crashed in practice.
Yeah.
Riding with a hurt wrist, so unfortunate for him.
He obviously doesn't love that bit because that's where he's injured himself in the past.
Well, it was just after that he had that whopping crash, ragdolled down those rocks.
Yeah, it's not his favourite bit of track, I would have thought.
Matt Walker, young Madison Saracen rider, had a great run. I thought he was looking really good.
Yeah,
another one from
brilliant.
Shropshire.
Yeah.
Up the Shropshire.
How does Shropshire do that?
I don't know. Mark Beaumont's from Shropshire. He's
Mark Beaumont. I mean, you're bringing out. There's not many counties that can.
No, the Athertons almost live in Shropshire.
Almost, you could nearly
Who
argue.
else? I can't remember. That's probably
it. Neil Donoghue.
Once got a top 10 at a World Cup.
Yeah.
He was pretty good.
Hang on a second. I'm just gonna.
That's gone.
Sorry, Martyn.
The barman's terrible in this place.
Come on, bingers. Anyway.
He went fastest in the hot seat by half a second.
Yes, I mean, is this Matt Walker?
Matt Walker.
Yes, and I mean, he's obviously happy on that track. He won there in 2017.
As the junior.
I want to say that because I wrote it in my notes and I'm proud of myself. Some information in Martyn's notes rather than doodles.
Odds Bernard Kerr looked really fast. Tell you what I thought was a little bit weird about Bernard, actually a few people. You know, there was like that step down over the road.
Yes.
It's taller than it is long. He pedalled like quite hard and pulled and then overshot it. It's like, is that because it's really hard to judge, or was maybe there was a few people thinking that they wanted to overshoot to just get past any holes?
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't see it until you're there. It's too late. You've probably decided what you're going to do.
Yeah.
But it's a bit weird how everyone always tries to land at the top of the landing. The few people sort of Seemed to me like they misjudged it, but maybe actually they were thinking they wanted to jump far off it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like you say, he always looks fantastic. I mean, it's hard to go downhill better than Bernard Kerr.
And he went into third.
Into third place. On
to Greg. He looked super fast.
Yes.
He was second at the top split, 1.2 back. He had a different line on the flat rooty bit, which is hard to describe. There's a funny little left wall ride in the flat woods, and then it opens up, and he seems to go really far right across the route. So I think he was the only person I saw do that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a bit of a masterclass in how to get down that track. He was clearly saving himself at the top, doing the opposite of probably what Bruni had done. Maybe Bruni had done, or maybe Finn had done, is he was clearly biding his time. And then as he got to that bottom section where time had clearly been lost, he absolutely pinned it. And you literally saw it on the clock. He climbed back up.
Well, went into hot seat.
Yeah, and went into the hot seat, and it was like an absolute masterclass. Greg Minnaar, back, qualified, on a hot seat, boom.
He's a fine vintage.
Boom, doubters.
He's a fine vintage. 37 years old is pretty much the age you want to be.
Yeah.
Eddie Masters was next. Second, if you qualify second fastest back in 2016, I'm nicking Rob Ornifacts here. Can you tell?
Yeah.
And he was fastest by half a second, but then lost time at the bottom, going to fourth. Again, losing time at the bottom.
Right.
Next up, Finn Isles. Flipping heck, he looked good. 2.5 up at split 2, gaining time at every split. Then lost a second, then another. So into hot seat by 1 second. So really, again, losing time at the bottom, you can't lose 2 seconds.
No, I mean, and it just showed the strength of Minnaar at the bottom there, is that, you know, he, in a sort of virtual race, if you put them both together, he actually chased him back down.
Brooke McDonald made time at the bottom. He was 4 seconds back and went in 1.8 back. He is the most powerful. I've heard stories of him on track bikes or on like watt bikes, putting out crazy amounts of numbers, like as good as the fastest track sprinters in the world. Which when you saw him, he pinned. Obviously, Daniel's a different game. Yeah. He nailed all his landings, smoothed off all jumps, went super low, and then he's like, how does he not snap more chains?
Yeah, pulling the bike apart.
Crazy.
Pulling the bike apart. It was absolutely incredible. He did it. I mean, he'd be such a popular winner there, but not to be. Troy Brosnan was coming onto course.
I find him easy to forget about, but he's really, really good.
He's unbelievably good.
He was 1 point. This is where things changed for me. He was 1.7 up at split 2. He took some crazy lines. He left an inside line that was there for the rest of the race, like a check this out, like a motocross rut. And then 2.4, and then 1 point up, 3.1 up, and then 3.6 at the finish. Which, in terms of downhill racing, 3.6 seconds is like, watch this.
Yeah, I mean, he has won that race at that point. I mean, and he looked absolutely pumped.
He was the
fastest
everywhere by a long shot.
Yeah, he looked so chuffed with it. It was unbeatable at that point, and I just thought, wow, what a race this has been.
Omri Piron goes, hold my beer, watch this, and then once you've seen the fastest run down for him, goes, right, this is going to be way faster. He looked fast. He set a drift on that left hander. And then he was 3 seconds up. The last jump, that's as close as you get without ragdolling but really hurting yourself and really hurting someone else as the bike tomahawks into the crowd.
So he's coming over the finish, pretty much the last 2 drops, he's coming over the finish line, basically does the biggest huck.
So you jump into 4-cross track and you sort of hip onto that berm. And then it's sort of a double that you then triple to flat. Yeah. But he said actually in the commentary afterwards that he was looking there and you can see the finish line, and he said he saw himself on green, which I think is pretty mental, because whatever you are there, you've got 20 foot to finish. Green or red, that's what you're going to... Unless you crashed, you're green or red. So why bother looking at the thing when there's only one thing you can do is crash?
He's a very likeable character. Yeah, he's very enthusiastic. Him, Loic Bruni and Loris Vergier, who was about to come down, a very funny trio and enjoyable.
And he went across 3.5 up. And you have to feel a bit sorry for Loris Vergier, because it's almost an anticlimax when there's 2 riders before you who've just gone berserk. And Loris rode that good enough to come third. However, it's been upstaged a little bit by Yeah. Omri, really.
Omri Pirion's just, I mean, it's a run that you've just got to watch as just an unbelievable feat of athleticism and skill. I really felt for Troy Brosnan. I felt he'd done everything you need to do to win a race.
And he's only won 2.
Yeah.
I say only, 2 World Cups is great, but that you've got to feel like that's your 3rd win when you've just come down and smoked everyone.
I mean, he really had put a really great day together, and I mean, but for just a sheer piece of brilliance and someone who is going to be very hard to beat this year on the most popular downhill bike on the circuit at the moment.
Pirion started his run last year, won his first ever World Cup this time last year at Fort William, and went on to win 3 in a row.
Yeah,
got Leo Gang next week.
If he hiccuped, he won a race last year. It was incredible.
Going into the overalls, we're doing this only a couple of hours after the race is finished. I haven't actually been able to find the women's overall for the year. Tracy must be winning that, we're thinking.
Yeah, Tracy will be leading now, we think. I think Tracy will be leading just because of qualification positions in the first 2 rounds. Could be wrong. Maths isn't my strong point. But it's obviously Tracy and Rachel that are going to be battling that out, because Tani is now out of action for at least a couple of races.
Men's, actually surprised me that Brosnan is now winning over Pirion, Bruni, Hart, then Vergier. Hart did well, actually. Definitely consistent at Fort William. He was 2nd, so he would have finished 4th.
And I think something interesting to talk about with Danny Hart is that he's managing to win a very difficult team battle.
He was 5th, actually. Matt Walker, his teammate, 7th.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Walker is on it.
He is.
That guy is on it, and he is managing to beat Matt Walker in the first 2 races and hold on to that. You know, it's like being in a team. One person you need to beat is your teammate, and the one place you need to have confidence is know that you're number 1.
Actually,
and he's importantly holding on to that.
I used to ride for Will Longdon. I think I've said that loads of times now. But Will runs the team, Madison Saracen, and they've got a brand new setup this year. It's massive. Did you go in there? They've got a proper,
really
huge truck now, lots more personnel in there. And it's impressive to see how from, granted it was 10 years ago, but it was just a Sprinter van. And we were a big team at that time. Now everything is so much bigger. There's 5 Arctic trucks there, maybe more, but there's a lot of big teams now, and the support they get is really impressive. I saw that actually going in there, myself and Jack went in there to film something before the race, and Danny Hart was hobbling around. Actually, I didn't mention that earlier. It looks like he must have had a crash.
Injured,
but obviously a great team. They've got 3 riders that must cost an awful lot of money to run those big teams, but a very strong team this year.
But important times for Danny, staying number 1. Not easy.
Yeah,
easy.
True. Well, we'll see next week. Leo Gang coming up. Can't wait.
Yeah. Just want a couple of points to touch on before we wrap up. The Frenchies, they've now won, and this is a stat I heard on the Red Bull live feed, which I just thought was incredible.
5 7.
7 of the last 9 World Cups, the French riders have won. They're also the cool bunch. Amazingly, and if anyone is around listening to this or watching this from the 90s, you'll think that's remarkable, because that's quite the change.
I mean,
they used to be the most boring bastards on the planet.
Pirion, Vergier, who do we say? Bruni. Who else?
There's a few of them.
French, Remy Thirion, Vergier is cool. Baptiste Pirion, 32nd.
Yeah.
Brother of Henry.
But they're led by that 3.
Fayol.
I mean, they are becoming sort of like icons of the current era. How have they done that? And are they doing well because they found a vibe that is very, very productive, very relaxed? They don't seem to be worried about pressure. They're happy for their friends to win.
Yeah, maybe. That's the thing with downhill. I mean, there used to be enemies back in the day a little bit, but you're racing the clock, you're not racing each other. So if you can get on with each other and you hang out and push yourselves on, then it's probably the recipe to success. It looks like it. Yeah, and that's difficult. Like I heard Greg talk about that in the interview he did with Bruni about the syndicate back in the day, how they weren't competitors. That team didn't work like that. Yeah. They were all friends, especially him and Steve. So what the French are almost taking that on and saying they're maybe doing it as nationality, maybe we don't know.
Model.
I mean, I'm sort of outside the scene enough to not really know. It could be that Pirion doesn't get on that way. It looks like they do, but what do we know?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be hard to beat this year, that's for sure, whether it be for Greg Minnaar or Loic Bruni. They've got a tough job ahead of them trying to stop that guy take his second World Cup championship, I think, after today.
Yeah.
They'll all be quaking in their cycling shoes.
Cycling shoes.
Yes. Cool. Well, it's been a wicked weekend. Great race again.
Yeah.
Fort William delivered for another year. How many times it can keep doing it without the track actually changing? Will it ever change?
Who cares? I don't ride it anymore. I'm happy to watch other people race it.
Happy to watch other people put up with it.
Podcast number 7 coming next week from Leo Gang. We've got one from Brendan Fairclough that you did the other day. It was a great podcast. That'll be coming soon as well. But lots of race at the moment. So keep your eyes peeled to YouTube's. We've got it on Spotify, got it on Apple Podcasts, so over on iTunes. Check it out.
Cool, and we'll see you next time.